to the Truth in My Days podcast, where we defend the Word of God against the challenges of men.
Hello, this is Sonia. I'm here with Truth in My Days director John Torse. John, Christmas is approaching, and I know that the accounts in the Bible of Jesus' birth are favorite targets for liberal scholars and skeptics to attack, aren't they?
Oh, yes. I remember the days when news magazines like Time and Newsweek and Maclean's used to bring out twice every year cover stories about Jesus. One would be around Christmas, one would be around Easter. And each of these issues would make claims about the accounts in the Bible not being reliable. They would have several pages all interviewing liberal scholars, attacking the reliability of the biblical accounts. And they would make bald assertions. They never offered anything in the way of proof. But yes, certainly Christmas is one of those times when liberal skeptics crawl out of the woodwork to attack the Bible.
So what is it that they say is so unreliable?
When it comes to the Christmas story, there are several things they attack, but the one that they focus on most is the date of Jesus' birth. And I don't mean the month and day, I mean the year. There are birth narratives only in Matthew and in Luke, and the claim that the liberal skeptics make is that these two books give conflicting data about when Jesus was born, and this conflicting data is impossible to reconcile. Even some well-known evangelical scholars concede this to be the single most intractable problem regarding the historical reliability of the New Testament.
Oh, that sounds interesting. What is the supposed contradiction?
This is one that's not in the biblical text itself. The contradiction is supposedly between what the Bible says and known historical facts. So let's start by reading the two accounts. Could you read for us Luke chapter 2, verses 1 to 6?
And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This census first took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered.
Thank you. And the account from Matthew, in Matthew starting in chapter 2, verses 1 to 3, we read this. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And then in verse 16 we read, Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. And then in verses 19 to 22, we read, Now when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the young child's life are dead. Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Now, these are all very nice, familiar stories associated with Christmas. We enjoy listening to them, reading them every year. But liberal skeptics and critics are quick to pounce and argue that these very accounts show that the gospel books are not historically reliable.
Okay, what's the charge?
Well, it has to do with this. Notice in the account in Matthew, we're told that Jesus was born in the days of Herod the king. We have several references to Herod. Jesus' family ends up fleeing to Egypt, and they return after Herod is dead. And you saw that in Matthew 2:19-22, when Herod was dead, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, "Arise, take the young child and his mother and go to the land of Israel." So, question then is, who is this Herod the king? You've probably noticed, if you read the New Testament, a bunch of Herods running around in the pages of the New Testament, and sometimes we can get confused and think this Herod is the same as that Herod, and that's not the case. There are actually a number of Herods. The one here in the Christmas story is the one known as Herod the Great, who essentially was the founder of this particular dynasty. He is the one who appears in Matthew chapter 2, the references we read out. He had sons by 4 different wives, and out of these sons, some of them became kings, or at least tetrarchs. One of his sons, born of Malthasa, a Samaritan woman, is this Archelaus that you read about in Matthew 2:22, who took over in Judea after Herod the Great died. So that's another Herod Archelaus, but he's only mentioned as Archelaus. Archelaus's brother is Herod Antipas, same mother. He is the one we see in Mark chapter 6. He is the one who is the king in Judea during Jesus' ministry. He's the one who has John the Baptist put to death in Mark chapter 6. He's the one that Jesus is brought before for an examination. That's recorded only in Luke chapter 23, verses 6-12. And then there's Herod Agrippa I. And Herod Agrippa I is a son of Aristobulus, who was born of a different wife of Herod the Great, Mariamne, a Hasmonean Jew. And that's the Herod that you read about in Acts chapter 12, the one who has James, the brother of John, put to death, and then shortly after accepts accolades as a god and finds himself struck and dead in the year 44. So there are these different Herods in the different accounts in the Bible story. And the one in the Christmas story, though, as we said, is the founder of the dynasty, Herod the Great. So Jesus, according to Matthew, was born while Herod was still alive. And we're told that according to history, Herod died in 4 BC, which would mean that Jesus was born before 4 BC, maybe as early as 6 BC. And you wonder, how could Jesus be born before Christ? Well, that's not really a problem. In those days, nobody counted years from Jesus' birth, obviously. They generally counted them ab urbe condita, the founding of the city of Rome. It was not until centuries later that a monk named Dionysius Exiguus, Dennis the Short, tried to get a new dating system going back to the birth of Jesus, and he might have been off a bit. But that's not a problem. The problem comes, the supposed problem, when we cross-reference this story in Luke. It came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This census first took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth. So it's this census proclaimed, decreed by Caesar Augustus, that is the reason that Joseph goes to Bethlehem with his wife Mary, and Jesus then is born in Bethlehem. Now, the supposed problem is that we read this census first took place while Quirinius was governing Syria, but we are told that ancient records tell us that Quirinius became governor of Syria in the year AD 6. So now do you see the problem?
Oh, so other accounts tell us that Quirinius would have not become governor until after Jesus was born.
Depending on when Jesus was born. But yes, that's the problem. How could Jesus have been born before Herod died and also be born during a census that first took place at least 10 years after Herod died? Remember, Herod, we're told, died in the year 4 BC. This census first took place in the year AD 6, so 10 years difference. How could Jesus' parents go to Bethlehem when Quirinius was governing Syria in AD 6 or later, and also do it during the reign of Herod, who died in 4 BC?
And it couldn't have been one of those other Herods after all.
No, the other Herods were born far too late for that. They're not born far too late, but took office too late. Now, virtually every reference book you check will say that Herod died in 4 BC. The Oxford Bible Commentary says Herod died in 4 BC. Paul Tobin, in The Rejection of Pascal's Wager, writes it was Herod who initiated the rebuilding of the temple. He did not live to see its completion, for he died in 4 BCE. Now, could it possibly have been a different Herod? The problem with that is we read in Matthew that when Joseph is returning after the death of Herod, he was afraid to go to Judea because Herod's son Archelaus was now ruling in Judea. Well, Archelaus replaced Herod the Great, not another Herod. So no, it couldn't have been another Herod. So here's the problem. We read that Herod died in 4 BC, and evangelical scholars agree with this. John MacArthur in the MacArthur Study Bible writes, "For in the days of Herod the Great, Herod the King, this refers to Herod the Great. This Herod, founder of the famous line, ruled from 37 to 4 BC. The New Bible Dictionary tells us Herod the Great, King of the Jews, 40 to 4 BC. The New International Greek Testament Commentary on Luke says Herod the Great, ruler of Judea, 50 to 5 or 4 BC. So, remember, Quirinius was supposed to be governor at this time, but according to the Oxford Bible Commentary, Herod died in 4 BCE, and Quirinius was not governor of Syria until 6 or 7 CE. And it dryly adds, attempts to reconcile the differences have not met with widespread endorsement. And again, evangelical scholars agree that this is a problem. Again, MacArthur, in the MacArthur Study Bible, Quirinius was governing Syria. Fixing a precise date for this census is problematic. Publius Sulpicius Quirinius is known to have governed Syria during AD 6 to 9. A well-known census was taken in Palestine in AD 6. It occurred about a decade after the death of Herod. Dr. Darrell Bach writes this, "Another good historical problem Dr. Arman raises is the issue of Quirinius' census. Quirinius is the governor who is associated with the changeover from Archelaus being removed as the ruler of Judea to the appointment of a Roman prefect to take over that responsibility. In the time of 6 AD, Quirinius filled this role similar to what Pilate would later. The argument is that we know Quirinius was ruler in 6 AD, but this is too late to represent Jesus' birth and be the explanation for why Mary and Joseph have come south from Nazareth down into Judea and to Bethlehem. This is certainly correct. We do have a historical anomaly here at this point."
Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but please join us for the next part tomorrow. Same time and same place. If you enjoy our content and think this is important material, the best compliment you can pay is by sharing this with your friends and family. This helps us out a lot. Also, if you enjoyed today's program, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to the Truth in My Days podcast with John Torse. We would love to hear from you. Please feel free to share any questions or comments you may have. You can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, MeWe, and YouTube. Simply search Truth in My Days as one word. Again, Truth in My Days as one word, no spaces in between. And you can connect with us. You may also visit our website for more comprehensive material and to learn more about our ministry. Our website is truthinmydays.com. Thank you.